So now that we've taken over the entire process from the property management perspective, that's what's happening. We're finding out everything, and we're just realizing the fact that it's just so bad, and we're trying to make you guys as happy as possible at this point.
Okay, well, I got some letters, and I got things especially to be people
What is this?
there were support letters for the people that had to go to the tribunal, and in behind we have letters. We made copies. So you can't say now you don't know that there are.
So given that you just acknowledged that Briar Lane was incompetent and not actually doing their job, how do you plan to compensate the tenants who have not had repairs done by Briar Lane and who have had to go to the tribunal because of Akelius? So you're going to compensate them by doing the job that you should have done months ago. That's not compensation.
Because it's not us.
So people had to miss a day of work to go to a tribunal. You have acknowledged that because you hired the wrong company, that they have been incompetent and have not done their duties to these tenants and to this building. So how will you compensate these tenants?
Well, you have to see it on a situation by situation basis. I can't say overall. I mean, I don't know why they went to tribunal for.
Because you gave them eviction notices. That's why they were at the tribunal.
Oh, so it was the fact they didn't pay rent. That they went to tribunal.
So it was, as you just said, you want people to send checks to a company who has been found to claim, even though people who have paid rent, that they didn't pay rent just so they can evict them. That's what you're telling people right now to do.
So the way it works is you pay your rent on the first of the month.
Oh, we're
Well, why
So
would people want to pay
nobody's
on the
disputing
first?
that they have paid. Like, you're getting what you want.
You're getting your
Akelius
rent.
Akelius hired someone to do building maintenance and to manage the building. Just give me a second here. Akelius hired someone to do building maintenance and to manage the finances of the building. Correct? You were hands off on that entire process. Now, the tenants who pay you for the service of living there have been living up to their responsibility. But while lobby retrofitting and balconies are being constructed so that it raises the rent, strangely enough, nobody is getting their repairs done. So the coordination of like increasing the general property value, therefore increasing the rental prospects for new tenants, is going like gangbusters. That's a seamless process. But getting people's individual units repaired, keeping some semblance of financial records of income that's happening, like are checks, were they making them to you? Like, are you hemorrhaging money because you aren't getting rent? Because there's tenants all over Parkdale that are faced with eviction notices based on rent that, as far as they're concerned, they paid. So they have to show up at the tribunal with like rent records, with payment records from February, for example, right? Like this, you have a tenant in 99 Tyndall that because he didn't have on the day of the tribunal a payment record for the February rent, he's now going to pay you again $1,000. There's no inconvenience that Akelius is facing.
Rent increase. Rent increase, 4% is under the limit, it's over. Like,
The above guideline increase?
So yeah, you apply for the above guideline
4%
increase.
is impossible.
4.1%. And
Some resident already paid the amount which you increase. Like,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
that
you-
should be deducted.
you've increased the rent without the hearing process, telling people that they have to pay an additional 4.1%, which is actually not true. They don't have to pay that at this point. And so people are sitting here without the actual legal facts as to what's going on. They feel bullied. They have new balconies, new common areas without any hot water. So the priorities that you guys are showing right now are clearly not for the current tenants, and therefore it seemed to be for future tenants, so that you can.
You get that, right?
And I mean, in the 1990s, we've had to call the city many times. We had to call the city, get the heat put back on, and your Sandra Stiff thought that was hilarious. Like if we had to call the 911 to get somebody out of an elevator. It's not 911's responsibility to come and get people out of elevator. Well, we have no supers. You don't have a super on site. We don't have anybody now. We got a phone, which we call, but nobody comes. You can phone them for months. People have sent emails, all kind of stuff. No reply. But yet, we're supposed to pay our rent on the 1st. Happily pay our rent on the 1st.
Well, so I'll look at emergency situations first.
I'm now having to call Akelius to remind you guys that our garbage hasn't been picked up. I have to call Akelius to remind you that the light bulbs have gone out in the stairwell. This is not my job, but I'd be more than happy if you would like to reduce my rent by 30%. Great, I'll take it on.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
A bad idea is not doing all these things for months and then hitting these people up with an above guideline rent increase. Based on what? Based on like fixing up infrastructure within the building so that it meets code, so then these people have been paying full price for a building that doesn't meet code, and now they have to compensate you for your building that doesn't meet code. These are, it's not their house. They aren't responsible.
We're trying to fix it up. So the point is we're fixing it up and getting it to a hard standard so you will have a more comfortable live.
And these aren't the people that finance that fixing up. They are paying rent for a unit that is supposed to be up to code. And they signed lease agreements with that expectation. Now what you're telling them is that part of the lease agreement, which is that they live in a structure that is to code, wasn't the case. They signed a lease agreement for a building that wasn't up to building code, and that you, in your benevolence, are going to do the legally required thing, which is provide housing and shelter by being compensated that is to building code. Now, the kicker is they have to foot the bill for that. While they also haven't had access to their balconies, their buildings have been construction sites and look like they will be construction sites for some time, and are not getting repairs done to their individual units. And Akelius, fair enough, but Akelius, it is apparent to many tenants that Akelius is insulating themselves with layers of people that they can then back off and say that this isn't their responsibility. Because when they get a spurious eviction notice, the person that they're supposed to call is the paralegal, who doesn't have a direct line of communication with Akelius, and frankly, speaking to him at the tribunal is unfamiliar with the grounds for eviction. And these people are expected to show up with like 9 months of financial records because they don't even know what month it is that they're being accused of not paying their rent, when the reason that there's no validation for them having paid their rent is because of this off-brand property management company that you were more than willing to pay to not do their job, and which may result in these people either paying more money for less or getting evicted. This is not something that anybody signs a lease for.
No.
So the conversation that you need to start having is not about rent increases. You shouldn't be sending people letters saying you have to pay 4%. You have to pay. You have done that.
Not rent increases, but I'm just saying.
These people.
An above guideline rent increase. So the compensation that you can provide is by getting rid of their above guideline rent increase, because it is completely illegitimate. Your building is not up to code, the people you hired didn't do their job, and that was all because of your negligence, and you've already acknowledged fault in that situation, so get rid of their above guideline increase.
And from here on out, communications with these tenants at 188 Jameson, 77 Spencer, and 99 Tyndall should not amount to a letter asserting that they have to pay you more money, but it should be letters of apology and an open line of discussion about how you are going to make this right for these tenants, because they have lived in this neighborhood for upwards of 10 years. You just got here. This is their neighborhood, not yours. So start sending people to these buildings to talk to them about whatever the discrepancy may be, whether it was Briar Lane or Akelius or what have you, about how you're going to get them supers, how they will have an open line of communication, how grievances that they may have with the level of disrepair or inaccess to their balconies or their lobbies or their elevator or the running water for their kids. Like, this is the way that you talk to people that you respect. You don't threaten them.
This is a situation where these 3 women from 3 different buildings that you own in Parkdale are essentially doing your work for you. Going around, talking to their neighbors, collecting information about what they need done in their apartments. And they're here today to bring that to you. It's all documented.
And frankly, the city went to the building in order to do it.
Clear anymore.
All the
Like,
building tiles are falling and the bricks, everything is down.
I think it's too small to take shower.
Yeah.
Is there another line that in the meantime tenants can reach you on? Because the line of communication right now is not
Yeah,
not
she's
working.
gonna
Can
give
we
us
get
a
another,
email.
like a cell number for the, who's the, since there's no super, who do they go to? Like who's
in
the
charge of
person
So we
that,
have a specific facility management department, which is the super, the plumber, the electrician,
so who's the super?
and it's the super for everything. So we have a couple different people. So depending on, say you have the electrical outlet switches are not working, we send an electrician over. We have an in-house
Just,
electrician.
just simple. If my toilet doesn't work tomorrow,
We send a plumber over.
who do I
So
call?
who do we call?
Yeah,
So
there's
you
no
call the
super.
same number, and
No one
and
answers
then,
that number.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative number?
So explain to me why no one answers that number. That's
So
what I want.
we need to say
We
we
know.
phone and it rings and rings and rings and rings and rings. Sometimes if we're lucky, we get put on hold and maybe disconnected. So I've been emailing that email address since May 5th, and I have yet to receive a single response. Do you know 7 emails I've sent?
Excuse me, ma'am. We need to have a super in
Super
the.
in
Yes.
the-
Very nice.
That's
All the
So
building
that
have a
we-
super in
There's
there.
no-
We can go and talk to him and he'll give us the answer.
Yeah.
So we can't call waiting and we can.
Just
reach
now,
you.
if we ask Super to do something, he said, I cannot do anything. Yeah.
Which is
He don't take the responsibility.
Yeah, we would
Only
love to have Super
cleaning
there.
that also very rough, not whole veranda. Only the outside he clean little bit. That's all.
And one night I didn't get a cold water. I have 2 kids. And till morning nobody came to fix. I had to wait for super. Yeah, I can't reach anybody. So it came to like, I can't cook. I can't give them anything. Water is, hot water is coming. Cold water is shut down there.
Super's there in the building till 5 p.m. and after that he's gone. That will be
Whole
complete.
night I can't do anything. I have to buy food.
So that way they after.
And one time the power went off.
No,
like,
whole day
3
we
days.
cannot
We
see
don't
the
have a
super.
fish. Everything is spoiled. And the bulb, you can't do anything there.
You had no power for 3 days. For 3
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
180
Was
Jameson.
that the power outage from a while ago, or was that something else?
That's the wire fire. I'm
Yeah.
do the TTs, the wheelchair, the subcontract. Okay, my car stuck inside.
Yeah.
I have to talk to them. That's a very serious problem. Are you new money? All building or smell horrible. Maybe everybody know that. That was a two.
Things are all spoiled. We didn't complain that. We didn't say anything. When these
How
two
do you
guys
say
are
that's-
sending us
that's really, really
no,
important.
no, it's important.